I want you to try a little mental exercise with us today. Just try to imagine an absolute void.
Which is, a lot harder to do than it sounds.
Oh, it really is. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, when we say empty space, we still usually picture something like a dark room.
Right.
Yeah.
Or the vacuum of space between stars.
Yeah, exactly. But even a vacuum has dimensions. It has a temperature. It has this sort of quantum fabric to it. So I want you to try to imagine true, absolute nothingness.
No distance, no time.
Right. No light, no physical laws at all, just a completely blank slate.
It's incredibly difficult for the human mind to picture that.
It is, but try to just hold that absolute blankness in your head for a second. Now, inside that nothingness, I want you to imagine just 2 points.
Just two.
That's it. Just two dimensionless dots sitting in the void. Now, from those two discrete points, what if you could derive literally everything?
And by everything, we mean everything.
Yeah, I'm not just talking about, the foundations of math or basic geometric shapes.
Hmm.
What if those two isolated points inevitably dictated the exact speed of light?
And the forward arrow of time.
Right. And the entire physical architecture of the universe itself.
I mean, honestly, it sounds like an ancient creation myth dressed up in modern terminology.
Or like hard science fiction.
Exactly. But that premise, that absolute staggering complexity, can be entirely unpacked from the simplest conceivable state. Well, it's the foundation of a radically different way of understanding reality.
Because it means you don't need arbitrary rules added along the way.
Right. You don't need a super complex origin story or a chaotic Big Bang to get the universe going. You just need pure structural logic acting on that initial state of those 2 points.
Which brings us to today's deep dive. We are venturing into some truly mind-bending, edge-the-map territory today.
We really are.
We're exploring this fascinating text from 2026 by an independent researcher. His name is George James Dukas, and the paper is titled Aeternum Nexus, The Physics of Creation v3.
And we should clarify, this isn't your standard academic physics paper.
No, definitely not. It's not just walking through quantum field calculations or something. This is a text that claims to have found the actual source code of creation.
A transdimensional unified field theory.
Yeah. It takes geometry, wave mechanics, and these profound metaphysics, and it just attempts to weave them all into a single cohesive tapestry.
But we should probably establish the ground rules for this journey right at the outset.
Oh, absolutely. Because it gets wild.
It does, because to follow the logic of the Aeternum Nexus, we really have to let go of some very deep-seated assumptions.
Right. Like, the very first thing Dukas asks the reader to do is completely abandon our conventional understanding of mathematics.
Yes, which is a huge ask.
It's a massive ask. I mean, we're taught from a very young age that numbers are fundamental truths. Like, you count 1, 2, 3, apples.
Exactly. But in this framework, numbers, as these isolated independent entities, they do not actually exist.
Which is such a wildly disorienting thing to wrap your head around. Like, if numbers don't exist, what are we even doing when we do math?
Well, Dukas proposes that everything in reality is an operator, or a gate.
An operator, okay.
Right. So when you write down the number 1 or 2, you aren't writing down a foundational building block of the universe. You are, essentially, a human observer writing down a functional state.
So it's like a record of something that already happened.
Exactly. You're looking at a record of an action that has already occurred. Think of a light switch.
Okay.
The concept of on doesn't just exist floating around in the ether by itself.
Right. On is just describing what the switch is doing.
Right. It is the description of a state resulting from a physical operation.
Yeah.
Someone flipped the switch.
I see.
And Dukas views all of reality through this exact lens of operations.
So today, our mission for this deep dive is to trace this blueprint of creation step by step.
From the very beginning.
Yeah. We're going to start back in that absolute void you pictured earlier, watch the birth of the physical universe, and then follow the logic all the way up to what the author calls the mind of God.
It's quite a trip.
It is. And I promise you, listening, while the math concepts we're going to discuss are dense, this journey is going to fundamentally shift how you visualize space and time and even your own existence.
It really reframes everything.
So to understand the universe, we have to start before it existed. We have to go back to that void.
The blank slate.
Right. So how does Dukas actually define this starting point?
Well, he describes it as a state before form, before number, before the first distinction of any kind.
Okay.
But importantly, Dukas doesn't frame this void as just a lack of something.
He doesn't.
No, he frames it almost as a fullness.
A fullness of nothing.
Kind of, yeah. It is a pause under maximum tension, just waiting for the first action.
Like a stretched rubber band before you let it go.
Exactly. And into this tension, we introduce the concept of division. We get our 2 points.
The 2 dots from our mental exercise.
Right. And the very moment you have 2 points, you inherently have a space between them.
Because they're separate.
Yes. And from this single spatial division, 2 distinct operations emerge simultaneously. They are latent, essentially just waiting to boot up the system.
Okay, let's break those 2 operations down thoroughly, because this is the moment reality essentially turns on, right?
That's right. The first operation is what the text calls the additive cascade.
Additive cascade.
So let's visualize those original 2 points again. If you add a third point, you now have 2 spaces between your 3 points.
Right. Point, space, point, space, point.
Exactly. If you add a fourth point, you have 3 spaces. Every single point you add in sequence creates exactly 1 discrete space behind it.
I've been picturing this like placing fence posts.
Well, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, like if I'm building a fence for you and I hammer down 1 post and then the second post, I have 1 section of fence between them.
Right.
And if I hammer down a third post, I have 2 sections of fence. I'm just building a line point by point.
That is the exact mechanism. You are stepping forward sequentially. Now, it looks like we are just counting, right? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Right. It looks like regular numbers.
But remember the framework we talked about. These aren't numbers yet. They are discrete, physical steps in an additive unfolding.
They're the operators.
Yes. And this specific operation, adding 1 discrete point after another, is the builder of geometry.
Okay.
It creates space, it creates linear extension, and it eventually gives human beings the concept we call the natural numbers.
So that's the builder. I follow the sequential building part, but what happens on the other side? What is the second operation?
The second operation is the multiplicative cascade.
Multiplicative. So we have addition and multiplication.
Right. And this one operates on the exact same starting condition of those 2 points. But it behaves entirely differently.
How so?
Instead of adding a point outside the original 2 points to extend the line, like your fence posts,
Yeah.
this operation looks inward.
Inward.
Yeah. It takes the single space between those original 2 points, and it divides it directly in half.
So instead of stepping outward, it folds inward.
Precisely. You take 1 space and cut it in half, giving you 2 spaces.
Yeah.
Then you take those 2 spaces and cut them in half, giving you 4.
Then 8.
Then 16, 32, 64.
Wow. Okay, so we're suddenly dealing with exponential growth, the powers of 2.
Yes. From the exact same initial state, a completely different architectural structure emerges.
Because the additive branch builds straight lines and rigid geometry.
And this multiplicative branch builds the wave. It builds oscillation. It forms the exponential backbone of reality.
That's wild.
So you have 2 operations. Both are real. Both occur simultaneously the moment a distinction is made, the moment those 2 points exist.
And together they do what?
Together, they exhaust all numerical potential just through the pure topological division of space.
I've been thinking about a way to visualize this for you listening, and tell me if this tracks.
Let's hear it.
Imagine looking at a completely blank canvas. The moment you place 2 dots on that canvas, you don't just have dots. You instantly automatically give birth to 2 fundamental tools. The first tool is a ruler. The ruler lets you measure the distance between the dots, adding them up sequentially to build out a line.
Right, your addition, your geometry.
Right, fence posts.
Yeah.
But the second tool you've inadvertently created is a mirror.
A mirror.
Yeah, imagine a mirror placed between the points. It reflects the space back on itself, dividing and doubling it infinitely.
The multiplication.
Exactly. That's your wave, your exponential folding. So reality, according to Dukas, is just the endless interaction of the ruler and the mirror.
That analogy captures the dual nature perfectly. The ruler creates the scaffolding, and the mirror creates the complexity.
And it all just comes from 2 dots.
Just the 2 dots. And it really drives home a crucial philosophical point from the text. What we call math is just a secondary phenomenon.
It's the exhaust of these operations.
Exactly. Even 0 has to be radically redefined here.
Oh, right, because normally 0 is just nothing.
Right. If you asked a conventional mathematician, 0 is an empty set. It's a lack of value.
But not for Dukas.
No. In the Aeternum Nexus framework, 0 is the void operator.
The void operator.
It is the pause between the points. It is a space under maximum structural tension waiting to be occupied.
Like the rubber band again?
Yes. It is a real active element of the framework.
So this means we don't need to invent complex arithmetic or summon some, I don't know, magical energy to get the universe started.
Not at all.
The pure, simple topological division of space is enough to generate all the potential of every state that will ever exist.
It really is elegant when you strip it down.
It is elegant. But, okay, I have a question.
Go for it.
If we just have addition and multiplication, so rulers and mirrors, straight lines and doubling waves, how do we ever get curves?
That is the perfect question.
Because if I have a ruler, I can't draw a circle. And if I have a flat mirror, I can't reflect a circle. How do we get shapes?
Well, this requires a massive paradigm shift regarding one of the most famous symbols in all of human knowledge.
Which one?
Pi.
Oh, pi.
3.14. Exactly. If you took basic geometry, you were taught a very specific, rigid definition of pi, right?
Yeah, of course. You take a circle, you measure the circumference around the edge, you measure the diameter across the middle, you divide the circumference by the diameter, and you get 3.14159, and on forever.
Right.
So pi is completely bound to the physical shape of a circle.
That is the conventional understanding, yes. But Dukas offers a radical correction here.
A correction to pi.
Yes. He states that in the pre-creation transcendental realm, so before physical space was fully established, pi was not a circle.
Wait, if it wasn't a circle, what was it?
It was a primordial wave.
A wave?
Think of it as a pure angular pulse in the void. It carried motion and it carried a frequency, but it possessed no closed physical shape at all.
So there was no circle yet to even have a diameter?
None. The circle actually had to be constructed.
Okay, I need to throw a flag here.
I figured you might.
Yeah, because this is where my alarm bells start ringing. Pi is a mathematical constant, literally defined by the geometry of a circle.
Yes.
So how does Dukas justify stripping it from the circle and calling it a primordial wave? I mean, how does pure motion just magically decide to bend itself into a physical geometry?
It doesn't happen magically. It happens mechanically.
Mechanically. Okay,
Yeah.
Explain that.
The mechanism relies on the golden ratio. This is where we need to introduce the two absolute workhorses of this entire theory. The golden operator.
Golden operators.
Right, phi and psi.
Phi and psi.
Before we apply them to pi, we need to understand what they are.
Okay, well, I know phi. The golden ratio, it's roughly 1.618.
Yes.
We see it everywhere in nature, like the spiral of a nautilus shell, the arrangement of seeds in a sunflower, hurricane patterns.
Even the proportions of the Parthenon.
Right. It's a ratio that dictates aesthetic and natural growth.
Yes. Mathematically, phi represents a unique property, where the ratio of two quantities is the same as the ratio of their sum to the larger of the two quantities.
It's the ultimate operator of self-similar growth.
Exactly. When you apply phi, things extend, they scale up, they grow outward.
Outward.
In the Dukas framework, phi is the operator of addition and extension. But phi does not work alone.
It has a partner.
It has a conjugate counterpart, psi.
Okay, so what is psi?
Psi is essentially the negative inverse of phi. Mathematically, it is roughly negative 0.618.
Negative.
Yes. So if phi is the engine of outward growth and extension, psi is the engine of contraction, anchoring, and curvature.
It pulls inward.
It pulls inward. It is the transverse force binding things together.
So we have an outward push with phi and an inward pull with psi, extend, and anchor.
Exactly. Now let's bring these back to our primordial wave of pi.
Right, the wave that isn't a circle yet.
Right. To turn that free-flowing wave of pure motion into a geometric circle, the wave has to be processed.
Process.
It has to be forced into a shape. So the wave enters the first quadrant of a plane,
Yeah.
and it undergoes a squaring operation
Right.
driven by the phi nature.
And phi is the outward push.
Right. This extends the arc, pushing it outward, giving it physical space.
Okay, so it pushes the wave out into the first quadrant.
Then immediately, it undergoes a square root operation, driven by the psi nature.
The inward pull.
Yes. This contracts and anchors the arc, preventing it from just spiraling out into infinity. It forces curvature.
Oh, I see. So extend outward with phi, pull inward, and curve with psi.
Exactly.
Then it moves to the second quadrant and does it again. Extend, anchor.
Third quadrant, extend anchor.
Fourth quadrant, extend, anchor.
Yes. And only when that sequence of alternating push and pull operations closes the four quadrants does the geometric circle finally emerge.
Wow.
The circle is the physical output of that tension. As Dukas puts it, the circle earned its pi.
It earned it. I love that phrasing.
It's great, right? It's not an assumed pre-existing shape. It is the necessary mechanical result of alternating growth and curvature operating on a wave.
That flips the entire mathematical script upside down.
Complete.
The circle is the exhaust. It is the result of the operators, not the starting condition. We took the ruler and the mirror, expressed them as outward growth and inward curvature, and literally forced a wave to close into a loop.
That's a perfect summary.
Okay, so now the wave has closed. We have a solid geometric circle. What happens next?
The stage is set for the actual explosion of physical reality.
The big moment.
Yes. Once pi becomes a closed, real geometric circle, the next operator act is squaring it. Pi becomes pi squared.
Pi squared.
In the Aeternum Nexus framework, pi squared is the ultimate creation operator.
Okay, let's slow down and look at the geometry of that. If you square a circle in a metaphorical sense, you are trying to make a square with the exact same area as a circle.
Right.
But mathematically, squaring pi means multiplying that massive transcendental number by itself. What does squaring it actually do in this framework?
Squaring pi collapses the imaginary transcendental wave realm entirely into physical reality.
It collapses it.
Yes, the act of squaring solidifies it. The imaginary falls away, and you are left with a massive foundational structure of pure, real potential.
But wait, pi squared is a number around 9.8696. We aren't living inside a universe made of 9.8696.
No, we aren't.
Our universe feels like a cohesive, singular thing.
Because it is a singular thing. From that massive structure of pi squared, a single one, a unity, is extracted.
Extracted. Okay, but why a 1? If we have almost 10 units of potential, why extract just a single 1? Why not pull out a 2 or a 5?
Remember our discussion back in the void?
The additive cascade.
Yes, the additive cascade built numbers step by step. 1 is the very first irreducible product of that binary division.
Irreducible.
It is the smallest, complete, indivisible entity. If you try to extract a 2, you're actually just extracting 2 ones.
Oh, because every number above 1 already contains a 1 inside it.
Exactly, meaning they aren't primitive states.
Yeah.
Only 1 can be extracted as a complete self-contained system without shattering the underlying architecture.
So the 1 is special.
Very. That extracted 1 is our physical universe.
Wait, our whole universe?
Everything. Everything that has ever existed physically. Every galaxy, every quasar, every single grain of sand on Earth is contained entirely within that extracted one.
Earlier in my notes, I was trying to find an analogy for this, for you listening, to make it visual. And initially, I thought about shipping a block of marble.
Okay.
I pictured pi squared as this massive, pristine block of stone, right? And the sculptor chips off a perfect little cube, the 1, and that's our universe. But based on what you were just saying about tension, about the push and pull of the operators, marble feels too passive.
Way too passive. A rock doesn't fight you when you chip it.
Exactly, it's dead. So let's try this instead. Imagine a massively pressurized containment chamber.
I like where this is going.
The chamber is filled with highly volatile fluid under immense, unimaginable pressure. The total pressure of that system is pi squared.
Right.
Now you open a tiny, perfectly calibrated valve, and you extract exactly 1 drop of that pressurized fluid.
Just 1.
And that single drop expands and cools, becoming our entire physical universe, that one. But the chamber you left behind, the pi squared minus 1, is still there.
That is a much more accurate visualization because it really captures the immense remaining potential.
Because there's a lot left.
A lot.
Yeah.
If you take pi squared, roughly 9.8696, and you subtract the 1 that became our universe, you are left with approximately 8.8696.
Right.
Dukas defines this leftover value mathematically as the spiritual remainder.
The spiritual remainder.
Yeah.
And just looking at the numbers, it is mathematically vastly larger than our entire physical reality.
It is a vast, unreduced realm.
Mhm.
It contains everything that was not expressed in that first act of physical creation.
Like what?
All the unused operators, all the uncollapsed probabilities, all the potential geometries that just didn't fit into the 1, they all still exist actively in that massive remainder.
Right.
The physical universe we observe is the smaller, extracted structure. The spiritual realm is the greater original remainder. And for Dukas, this isn't just a philosophical metaphor.
It's actual math.
It is direct arithmetic structure.
But here is where we get into the physics and where I have to play devil's advocate for a second.
Go ahead.
When you extract that 1, when you pull that drop of fluid out of the pressurized chamber, it doesn't just slip out silently.
No, it does not.
There's resistance.
There's immense resistance. There is a boundary interface between the physical 1 and the spiritual remainder. When unity is removed from pi squared, there is a violent extraction.
And that creates friction.
Yes, that extraction creates a structural drag, a friction between the physical universe and the remainder it was essentially torn from.
And this is the claim in the text that really makes me pause. Dukas claims that the entropy, or the drag of that extraction, generates two specific mathematical entropy constants.
Yes.
And when you calculate the friction at that boundary, it mathematically yields the exact speed of light.
299,792,458 meters per second.
Right. 299 million and change meters per second? Now, frankly, this sounds suspiciously like numerology to me.
A lot of people might think that.
Because how does a pure mathematical subtraction of abstract topological concepts generate a velocity measured in meters and seconds? I mean, meters are a human invention based on the Earth's equator.
Sure.
Seconds are based on the rotation of our specific planet. How does the fundamental math of the void care about human measurements?
It is the most critical challenge to the theory, and the answer lies in dimensional analysis and the nature of constants.
Break that down for me.
The math does not output the word meters or seconds. The math outputs a pure, dimensionless ratio of structural drag.
A dimensionless ratio.
Right. It defines the absolute threshold of how fast an operation can propagate through the fabric of the one without shattering back into the remainder.
So the speed limit itself is the math. The meters and seconds are just the arbitrary human language we happen to use to label that speed limit.
Exactly. If an alien species measured the speed of light in Zorgs per blyph, the numerical value would look completely different to them, right?
Right.
But the fundamental ratio of spatial extension to temporal drag would be absolutely identical.
Okay, that actually makes perfect sense.
In standard physics, the speed of light is treated as an empirical given. We shine a laser, we measure the time it takes to travel, we write down the number, and we basically shrug.
We just accept it.
Right, we don't know why the universe chose that specific speed limit. But in the Aeternum Nexus, the speed of light is not some arbitrary rule imposed on empty space.
It's the scar.
It is the physical scar of creation. It is the exact, necessary structural limitation caused by the drag between the physical universe and the spiritual remainder.
It is the friction of existence itself. You can't travel faster than that because you would literally be tearing the universe apart at the seams of its extraction.
Precise.
That is a stunning way to view light. Okay, so our physical universe, the one, has been extracted. It has a speed limit born from the resistance of its birth.
Yes.
But what is it actually built out of? Like, if numbers like 2 and 3 don't really exist as building blocks, what is running the simulation?
This brings us to the deeper mechanics of those golden operators we talked about earlier.
Phi and psi.
Yes.
Yeah.
When pi is squared and the transcendental collapses into reality, what remains at the absolute foundation are those two forces. We discuss them creating the circle, but they also build the entire lattice of space and time.
How?
Dukas sets up two absolute mathematical rules for how they interact, representing the two cascades we started with in the void.
The addition and the multiplication, the ruler and the mirror.
Yes. Under the additive branch, the rule is phi plus the absolute value of psi equals exactly 1.
Wait, 1.618 plus 0.618, that doesn't equal 1.
Remember, psi is a negative number. It is approximately negative 0.618.
Oh, right.
So mathematically, phi, which is 1.618, minus the absolute value of psi, which is 0.618, equals exactly 1.
Ah, okay. Oh,
And look,
yeah.
the structural relationship is that they combine to form the unity of 1. This operation builds geometry, space, and form. It is the scaffolding.
So this is the ruler, extending point by point to build the physical space of the universe.
Yes, but under the multiplicative branch, the rule is phi multiplied by psi equals exactly negative 1.
Negative 1, let me think. 1.618 times negative 0.618. Yes, that perfectly equals negative 1.
This is the dimensional switch. It is a negative inversion. It builds the wave, oscillation, existence, and motion.
The mirror, folding the space back on itself.
Exactly. The exact same two operators, phi and psi, produce the positive geometry of space under addition and the negative inversion of the wave under multiplication.
That's a huge unification.
It is a profound structural declaration of duality. Matter and energy, particle and wave, space and time. They're not two separate things.
They're just the same operators behaving differently.
Yes, they are two different operational natures of the exact same golden roots.
Wow. Now, the text also introduces these other coefficients that govern the projection of this geometry, alpha and beta.
Right.
In my notes, alpha is listed as approximately 3.811, and beta is listed as approximately 0.188.
Correct.
And when you add alpha and beta together, they equal exactly 4.
Exactly 4.
When I saw that, my mind immediately jumped to the 4 dimensions of space-time. 3 dimensions of space, 1 dimension of time. Is that what Dukas is getting at here?
It is exactly what he's getting at.
Hmm?
The sum of the coefficients dictates the dimensional framework of the extracted universe. We live in a 4-dimensional reality.
But look closely at the values for a second. Alpha is 3.811, beta is only 0.188.
They are highly asymmetric.
They're completely lopsided.
Yes, the division of unity into phi and psi was not a symmetric 50-50 split. Significantly more velocity, more outward phi nature entered the creation event than inward time or psi nature.
Which raises a really interesting philosophical question. Why aren't alpha and beta just equal? Why not a perfect 2 and 2?
It's a common question.
Because as humans, we love symmetry, right? A perfectly balanced equation seems more elegant, more divine. Why build a universe that is mathematically lopsided from day one?
Because a perfectly balanced universe would be completely dead.
Dead.
If alpha and beta were perfectly equal, if the structural division was perfectly symmetric, there would be no forward motion.
Oh.
There would be no arrow of time, no expansion of space. Every outward push would be immediately canceled by an equal inward pull.
It would be stuck.
It would be a static, frozen crystal geometry. Nothing would ever happen.
So it would be a completely still photograph instead of a movie.
Precisely. The asymmetry, the fact that alpha is massively larger than beta, is the fundamental imbalance that forces the universe to act. It is a state of perpetual falling. It is why time moves constantly forward. It is why space is expanding.
It makes so much sense.
In modern physics, we have a massive mystery regarding why matter survived the Big Bang over antimatter, right?
Yeah, they should have been created in equal amounts and just annihilated each other completely.
Right. The Aeternum Nexus provides a framework for this. The universe exists rather than merely being because of a baked-in structural asymmetry in the golden operators.
It's like walking. I think about it like walking. Walking is basically just controlled falling.
That's a great way to put it.
You throw your weight forward, off balance, and then you catch yourself with your foot. The universe is constantly leaning forward, falling into the next moment, purely because it was born slightly off balance. I absolutely love that concept.
It's very poetic. And this specific asymmetry builds our specific 4-dimensional space-time. But Dukas doesn't stop there.
He goes further.
He uses this math to propose an infinite fractal ladder of dimensions.
How does he mathematically prove other dimensions? I mean, we can only see ours.
By analyzing the powers of the operator.
His power.
We live in 3-dimensional space, right?
Sure.
So what happens when you cube the golden operators?
Okay, let's do the math.
If you take phi cubed and subtract the absolute value of psi cubed, the math yields a perfect exact 4.
The same 4 from our alpha and beta dimensions.
Yes. And this mathematical lock proves that our 3D spatial universe is not an isolated anomaly.
It's just a piece of the puzzle.
It is just one specific node, one rung, on an infinite ladder of dimensional possibilities. And here is where the mechanics get truly fascinating. These dimensions breathe in an alternating pattern based on the math.
Wait, what do you mean they breathe? How does a dimension breathe?
It has to do with psi being a negative number.
Okay.
When you raise a negative number to an even power like squaring it or taking it to the 4th power, it becomes positive.
Right, negative times negative is positive.
But when you raise a negative number to an odd power like cubing it or taking it to the 5th power, it remains negative.
Right, negative times negative is positive times negative, again, goes back to negative.
Because of this mathematical rule, the dimensions alternate their fundamental nature as you go up the ladder.
Oh, wow.
In even dimensions like 2D, 4D, 6D, the math becomes entirely positive and additive.
Which means what?
These dimensions are geometric, spatial, and dominated by phi, the growth operator. They are rigid structures of form.
Okay, so 2D and 4D are the builders. They're the scaffolding.
But in odd dimensions like 1D, 3D, 5D, 7D, the psi operator remains negative.
So the math is subtractive.
Yes. These dimensions are wave-like, rotational, and dominated by psi, the time and contraction operator. They are fluid structures of motion.
Which means our physical universe, being 3D, is an odd wave branch reality.
Exactly.
We live inside a domain of motion and time, rather than a domain of rigid static geometry.
Exactly. We live on a subtractive, wave-dominated node.
Yeah.
But all of these dimensions, from the 1D line to the 2D plane up to 4D hyperspace and the infinite dimensions above it, they all coexist simultaneously in superposition.
They're all here right now.
They aren't in different places. There are different mathematical constraints governing the exact same space.
It's like cosmic lungs.
Cosmic lungs.
Yeah, I think about it like breathing for you listening. Breathe in, that's the even dimensions, creating rigid geometry, form, adding structure, filling the lungs.
Right.
Breathe out, that's the odd dimensions, creating the wave, motion, oscillation, exhaling. And our whole universe, every star, every planet, every second of history we have ever recorded is just one single exhale on a ladder of infinite breaths.
That is a phenomenal way to conceptualize it. And what's crucial is that scale matters.
Scale.
If you zoom all the way into a molecular bond or a crystalline lattice, that tiny space might be entirely governed by the rigid 2D planar geometry of an even dimension.
Oh, interesting.
But if you zoom out to look at a spiral galaxy rotating through space, you are looking at the wave mechanics of an odd dimension.
So different scales are dominated by different dimensional geometries.
But they are all playing notes from the exact same chord, derived from the single algebraic root of phi and psi.
It is genuinely breathtaking to trace this architecture. I mean, we have gone from two formless points in an absolute void to a primordial wave to a closed circle to the extraction of the physical universe to defining the exact speed of light all the way up a breathing ladder of infinite dimensions.
It covers a lot of ground.
It does. But this grand tour brings up the biggest, perhaps most intimidating question of all.
The human element.
Yeah, we have mapped the machinery, we see the operators in the gates, but who is looking at the map? Where do we, as fragile, biological, conscious beings, actually fit into this cold lattice of math?
This is the pivot point in the text where Dukas transitions from pure structural physics into profound metaphysics.
It's a metaphysics.
In the Aeternum Nexus framework, consciousness is not viewed as a biological accident. It is not an emergent property of wet neurons firing in a primate brain.
So we aren't just meat computers hallucinating a reality.
Not at all. The text posits that you, as a conscious being, are a highly specific localization of the phi and psi lattice.
Wait, we're made of the operators.
You are quite literally built out of the exact same golden operators that built the geometry of space and the arrow of time.
That is heavy.
But Dukas makes a vital, necessary distinction here to explain our specific role. He separates the concepts of intelligence, consciousness, and awareness.
Let's break those three down, because in everyday conversation, I think most people use those words completely interchangeably.
They do, but functionally, they're entirely different capacities. Intelligence is computational.
Okay, computing.
It is the ability to derive equations, recognize patterns, and process data. A silicon microchip has intelligence, and AI can crunch the math.
Right.
Consciousness is the next level. It is the ability to hold those computations in a subjective space, to ponder them, to experience the sensation of knowing.
So AI is intelligent, but a dog or a human is conscious. What is the third level then? What is awareness?
Dukas writes a very striking line in the paper. Awareness becomes the capacity.
The capacity for what?
Awareness is not about computing or pondering. It is the ability to receive what exists beyond equations.
Beyond them.
Intelligence invents. Consciousness experiences. But awareness receives.
Okay.
The physics and the metaphysics in this text are completely inseparable. Dukas explicitly claims that the massive equations in this paper, the geometric derivations of pi, the extraction of Soviet of light, were not invented through clever arithmetic.
They weren't invented.
He claims they were received, discovered, because his awareness expanded to meet what he calls the mind of God.
Let me make sure I'm following this. He's saying the math was already there, complete and perfect, waiting.
Everything was already there. In this framework, originality in the sense of a human creating a brand new truth from absolute nothing does not exist.
It's all just discovery.
Every truth, every physical law, every equation, every beautiful piece of music was already latent in that massive spiritual remainder we talked about earlier.
The pi squared minus 1.
Yes. Discovery is just the moment when a human awareness finally attunes itself to an operator that was always present, pulling it across the veil into human understanding.
And the framework, for all its immense complexity, pushes right up to the edge of what can be mathematically known, right? It hits a wall.
Yes, it reaches what the text calls oblivion, or the veil.
The veil.
All the math, the operators phi, psi, the void, the cascades, all of that is the machinery inside creation, is the engine room.
Right.
But the framework explicitly and humbly states it cannot cross the veil. What lies beyond the operator system is the infinite mandala, the creator, the highest intelligence.
Kind of God.
The math is incredibly precise, and it points directly to the door, but it acknowledges that equations cannot open the door. Only awareness can.
So what does this all mean for you, the person listening to this right now? Why does any of this dense, transdimensional, unified field theory matter for your Tuesday morning commute?
It's the ultimate question.
According to this text, your soul, your specific localized awareness, is not random. It was a distinct possibility drawn from what Dukas beautifully calls the realms of sleep at the exact right moment in the probabilities of time.
You aren't just passively observing a dead universe ticking down to thermal death.
Right. You are made of the exact same golden operators that dictate the speed of light. You are the universe's way of witnessing its own asymmetry.
And because you're constructed from those operators, your awareness is fundamentally, structurally connected to that vast, unreduced spiritual remainder.
You're the bridge.
You are the biological interface between the physical extracted one and the infinite potential of pi squared minus 1.
Let's bring this massive journey all the way home. We started today with an impossible task, visualizing two lonely dots in an absolute void.
And we watched as pure, necessary spatial division gave birth to the additive ruler and the multiplicative mirror.
We saw how pi was rescued from the strict confines of a circle, reimagined as a primordial wave of motion, forced into physical geometry quadrant by quadrant through the alternating push and pull of the golden operators phi and psi.
We watched the squaring of that geometry act as the catalyst for reality, allowing the physical universe, our single drop of unity, to be extracted from a massively pressurized system, leaving behind an infinite spiritual remainder.
And we learned that the extreme structural friction of that very separation dictates the speed of light itself.
We explored how the profound asymmetry between alpha and beta, the imbalance of growth and time, gives us an arrow of time, forward motion, and a living universe instead of a frozen crystal.
And how our reality is just one wave-like, odd-numbered exhale on a ladder of infinite breathing dimensions.
And finally, we saw that you, the observer, are the essential final piece of this math. You are the awareness. You are the capacity to receive the latent truths of the infinite mind.
Which leaves us with one final profound implication to consider as we close this deep dive.
Yeah.
We know that pi squared minus 1 is the massive spiritual remainder, a mathematical realm vastly larger than our entire physical universe, containing absolutely everything that wasn't collapsed into our physical reality.
And we know that human awareness is the designated portal to that space.
So the question you have to ask yourself is this: what untrapped operators? What entirely new laws of reality, what unexpressed geometries and unknown truths are sitting just on the other side of your own consciousness, waiting in the realms of sleep for you to simply become aware of them?
It strongly suggests that the universe isn't finished expressing itself, and neither are we.
I think that is the perfect place to leave it. Thank you for taking this journey with us into the void, and back out again. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.